There we go. Let's look. What are paradigms? Now, this is so basic and so simple, we miss it. Paradigms are nothing but a multitude of habits. But get this. There are other people's habits that have been passed on from one generation to the next. You are genetically programmed. That's why you look like your relatives. That's why I look like my relatives. You'll find you even have a little idiosyncrasies like your mother, or your uncle, or your aunt, or somebody. It's in the genes. It's passed along from one to another. Joel Barker wrote the book on paradigms back around 1990. He said to ignore the power of paradigms to influence your judgment is to put yourself at risk when exploring the future. Now, think of this for a moment. We're always exploring the future. At the end of a 4-week cycle, you're exploring the future. You're looking, what do you want to do over the next 4 weeks?
Hit goals.
Hit goals. Woo! Well, start being the goal now.
Oh, got him.
That's really how you do it. You bring the future into the present. You hit gold now. But you see, the trick is when you're exploring the future, it said to ignore the power of paradigms to influence your judgment. We will take a look at it when we're setting goals, and we have a tendency to play it safe. How many of you heard this when you were kids? It's better to be safe than sorry. That's a bunch of crap. It is. It's not better to be safe than sorry. Let's build a scenario. Let's suppose we're all old and decrepit. They may have us tied into wheelchairs. Our mind is sharp, or we may be in a cribbed bed beside us, like a baby's bed, only we're very old. And they put us in a crib bed because if we roll out, we'll hurt ourselves. Our body's sharp, but our mind is sharp. Well, this does happen to people. They're towards the end of the road. The game is over. They know it's over. There's no going back. Wouldn't it be terrible to look back there and think, I wonder what would have happened if we hadn't done that? I wonder what would have happened if we had bought that business. I wonder what would have happened if we had moved there. I wonder what it would have been like. I wonder what would have happened if we had mortgaged the house and laid it all in the line and really went for it. I wonder what would have happened if only I could go back and do it again, but you know you can't. You don't get another bite of the apple. It's all over. Wouldn't it be a lot better to be at the end and say, God, remember the time we did this? We blew our brains out, but did we have a time? If you lose big enough, it can be exhilarating. It really can. You see, everything we do is a learning experience. You've lost different things, and it was still, God, you had a time doing it. Wouldn't it be better to think, God, remember how scared we were when we invested in that? There was no need to be scared, and we did really well. God, if only I could get this message across to the kids. It's so much better to go out on a limb and give it everything you've got. Well, you see, we're not at the end of the road. We're here. We can do whatever the hell we want. But if you ignore the power of paradigms to influence your judgment, you're toast. It just doesn't work. Now, around 1970, Elvin Toffler wrote a book, Future Shock. Now, I was working at Langdale Conant. Do you remember the book? It was a good book. He wrote this book, and he was making predictions on the future, on the next 50 years. And some of the predictions, I remember, well, I was at Nagakona, so we were really interested in this stuff, on what's coming to happen, what's coming. And some of the predictions, we thought the guy was smoking something, because, they were just so bizarre, some of the things that would happen. Poctor aimed too low. We went beyond what his predictions were. Now look what he said here. He said the illiterate of the 21st century are not going to be the people who cannot read and write. They're going to be the people who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Learn, unlearn, and relearn. You've got to know that a lot of the stuff you've been taught ain't so. It's like the guy says, it ain't what a man don't know that hurts him, it's what he knows that ain't so that hurts him. We believe in a lot of things that are not true. Where did our beliefs come from? Good question. There's only two sources of reference you can go to find out and devote yourself. One's science and the other's theology. There isn't anywhere else to go. I don't care whether you're in the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, the Book of Mormon, the Torah, the Quran. Doesn't matter what book you get in. Every one of them is going to tell you have to believe. Now remember I said I was searching, trying to figure out why I changed. It took me 9.5 years. I was sitting with a guy who was a mentor of mine. We actually mentored each other. I was better at marketing than him, but he knew more about the mind than me. So we really helped each other a lot. And one day we were sitting in a restaurant. I can still see us sitting there when this happened. Because I was gathering all this information. I couldn't figure out exactly why I changed so dramatically. Because I went from losing to just ridiculous success. And I couldn't figure it out. I knew that there wasn't an emotional or capricious God that reached down and said, "Let's Bob's turn now." I didn't buy that yet. I knew I wasn't lucky. Voltaire said we invented the word luck, miracle, words like that. He said we invented those words to express the known effects of unknown causes. When we don't know how it happened, we say, well, it's just luck. Bad luck, good luck. I knew that wasn't true. But we were sitting in a restaurant this day, and he said, our belief system is based upon our evaluation of something. And frequently, if we reevaluate a situation, our belief about that situation will change. That was like bells going off in my head. He said, what did you just say? He said, our belief system is based upon our evaluation of something. And frequently, if we reevaluate a situation, our belief about that situation will change. And right then, I knew why I had changed. I started, when I first picked up this book, reevaluating who I was. I started thinking I was Bob. I'm not Bob. Bob is my name, but it's not me. I started thinking, this was me. This is not me. You never hear anyone say, am leg, am hand. You say, my hand, my leg. See, I had learned all these things, and I started to study it. I started to reevaluate who I am. Do you know that the blood circulates through your body? Every 33 seconds, it goes through hundreds of miles of passageway. It carries all the food in and all the garbage out, whoo, like that, in one sweeping change. If you just studied the blood in your body, it would blow your mind. Your brain is an electronic switching station. We will never build another brain. The brain is a marvel. Do you know your brain starts to develop 16 days from the moment of conception? 16 days, the brain starts to grow. Your brain is an electronic switching station. Your brain is not your mind. Your mind is movement. Brain is the manifestation of that movement as part of the body. When you think, you activate brain cells. I got to activate brain cells to bring my hand up and do this. I have to do that. Your whole body is a mass of energy. As you activate brain cells, you alter the vibration you're in. You alter your vibration like that. New things start to happen to you. That's what we have to do. We have to alter our vibration. Well, I was studying all this. And I'm reevaluating who I was. Like I started out with the idea, I can't do anything. I wouldn't even try to get a good job. I knew nobody would hire me. And I just had such a low opinion of myself. How could I have a good opinion? I've got bad report cards. I've had dumb jobs. Everybody told me you're no good. What the hell did I know? They must be right, you know. And that's the way most people grow up. Do you know every school teacher has a red marker? And what do they mark? They mark the things you did wrong. Where's your focus? On what you do wrong. Think. What do you do right? That's what I started to look at. That's what I started to study. And I've been doing this for 10 years. And my whole life started to change. I was reevaluating who I am. Now you see, as you start to reevaluate who you are, you're going to get to have a pretty healthy opinion of yourself. I don't care where you've come from. I have worked in maximum security prisons. I've worked in schools. I've worked with some of the largest companies in the world. I've worked with individuals in every walk of life you can think. And I've watched people change. I had one guy that was ready to throw away the key. He had been in solitary confinement for 7.5 years when I met him. I got him paroled to me. I got the Canadian Parole Board to tear up his parole and give him his passport so I could take him over to the office in England. Guy totally changed. Totally. I started to teach him something about himself. We were in the prison, and I told him, I said, I can earn it faster than you can steal it. Then I said, when I tell that screw to open the door, she's got to open the door. If you listen to me, I can show you how to get out of here. That's when he started to listen. Then I can tell you all kinds of stories like that. Kids in school that were getting C and D average. Teachers giving them bad report card. You're not your report card. Your report card is it's a terrible thing. You get the report card, you go home, and that's what your parents think you're like. That's what you think you're like. The report card tells you where your mind was at for a few minutes, maybe 3 weeks ago. Nothing to do with your potential. Then I started to understand all this. I started to understand this. My opinion about myself changed. I started to look at who I am. What's your name? Pardon? F-N-A? How do you spell it? Okay. Now, if I asked you what color is F-N-A, you tell me she's white. If I ask what color am I, you say I'm white. And we wonder, well, what the hell are you getting at now? She's not black, and I'm not white. Why do we say she's black and I'm white? No. You know why? You see something that isn't there. My shirt is white. I'm not the color of my shirt. Yet, if you ever saw a white person say, "I got the guy's white!" Now really think of what I'm saying. Why do you see black or white? Because you've been programmed to see it. You don't see with your eyes. You see through your eyes. You see with cells of recognition in your brain. Now, if you're seeing something that isn't there when it comes to the color of our skin, how many other things you've been trained to see that aren't there? That's part of our paradigm. That's what paradigm. It's how you see the world. It's your perception. I started to see me different. I started to see me as a guy that, I don't know, I have maybe $1,000, $3,000 on me. You put me on a plane anywhere in the world. I'd start a business like that. I'd have the thing flying. You know why? Because I know I can. How do I know I can? I just know it. Now some people, they would even go and try and get a job. You know why? They know they can't get it. Do you know who that is? That used to be me. How did that change so dramatically? I reevaluated who I was. And I started to realize all the stuff that I believed about me wasn't true at all. You've got to start to analyze your most cherished beliefs. Don't treat them as if it's sacred, that you've got to hold on to it. You don't got to do anything. You are free. Listen, Viktor Frankl spent the war years in a German concentration camp. A Jewish psychiatrist from Vienna. He said that regardless of how he was treated, intellectually or physically. No one could cause him to think something he didn't want to think. Think. You've got to learn, unlearn, and relearn. That is pretty profound when you play with that for a bit. You've got to learn. You've got new stuff you've got to learn. And to do that, you've got to unlearn some of the stuff you've learned. And then you've got to learn some new stuff. You've got to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Buckminster Fuller was asked, the designer of the geodesic dome, he was asked what he does with new architects when he trains them. He said, I de-educate them. Because they get rid of some of the ideas they've got. Okay. This paragraph here. That's highlighted in the book. Now the highlights almost all faded into the page. If you look and you see it, there's a little different color than the rest of the page. There's a smudge there, I don't know if it's some grease on my fingers. You know, those two paragraphs, that is huge. Look at this. There's a difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive it. No one's ready for a thing until they believe that they can acquire it. The state of mind must be belief and not mere hope or wish. Open-mindedness is essential to belief. Closed minds will not inspire faith, courage, or belief. Now this is huge when you play with it. There's a difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive it. I was talking to somebody today that said they wanted a studio apartment. I wish that could be different. No. There's a difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive it. No one's ready to receive it until they believe that they can acquire it. Now, you see, the truth is, if you sit down and analyze it, you could buy 100 studio apartments. You just have to figure out how. And don't even think you can't have what you want. You start by thinking, I can have it. Now, how am I going to get it? Now, if you don't think you can have it, you will never try and figure out how to get it. Keep playing with this. There's a difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive it. Quit wishing you were a lead. Quit wishing you were an ambassador. Quit wishing you were earning $25,000 or $35,000 a month. Take possession of it. See yourself there. Already there. Not going to get there, already there. It's got to happen in here first. It'll never happen outside if it doesn't. You see, you got to believe it. Now, hoping and wishing, it just won't fly. It will not fly. You got to believe it. You got to believe it. And when you believe it, that's when you're ready. Now, here's the part. When I learned this, man, I thought, I have got something here that's worth its weight in gold. It says, remember, no more effort is required in order to aim high in life to demand abundance and prosperity that is required to accept misery and poverty. That doesn't take any more energy to think of ambassador than it does of gold. What the hell do you want gold for? You don't want gold, you want ambassador. You see, no, this is the way it works. If you've got the freedom to think. What do you really want? This is important. It doesn't take any more energy. There's energy flowing into our consciousness. And we build wants out of it. We build wants out of just energy. You can't see it, but it's there. Well, the same energy you build a little idea with, you build a big idea. It's the same energy. It doesn't take any more energy. I mean, why would you think of 1,000 when you can have 1,000,000? Why would you think of gold when you have present income? You see the game we're playing? You say, well, there's no end to this. That's right, there isn't. See, it's just a matter of stretching your mind. It's like, I think it was Thomas Carlyle said, when your mind expands by a big idea, it'll never go back to its original shape. I mean, I'm going to do something to your mind here today, and then it's going to go back again. You're going to leave here. That's the way it works. Now look, you control your results. It's important to remember that. better this one. Better tie it on the rear, right? You control your results. Don't let your results control you. You know most people are controlled by what they read or cycles on the computer. You control what's on the computer. Don't let the computer control you. If you got a problem, I don't care what the problem is. I'll tell you what I do. When I've got a problem or a challenge, I write it out on a piece of paper. I put it in the middle of my dining room table, and I go and sit at the end of the table. Then I say, now, is the problem on the paper or is it in me? If it's in me, I stay there until I get it on the paper. I get it out of me, and I put it on the paper. And I say, now, is the problem on the paper or is it in me? Then I'll go and sit at the other end of the table. Now, move into Napoleon Hill's energy, and I say, how would Napoleon Hill look at that? You might go and sit and look and say, how would Poctor look at that? And go sit over here, how would Brad look at that? Go over here and say, how would Jacob, where is Jacob? Let's see if Jacob's first name. Andrew, where is Andrew Jacob? Where is he? Hi Andrew, how are you? You're a quiet guy. You're making noise. All right. You ought to give Ian Luke a big hand. Well, that's silly, that's playing a game. Maybe it is, but it works. Life's a game. It's just a big game. Earning money's a game. You can play a big game or a small game. But understand this, you decide what kind of a game you're going to play. It's that simple. When I leave here, I'm going to have a limo take me to the airport. You know when the plane's going to leave? When I tell the plane to leave. Why not? Listen, the beautiful part about this, that tells the truth. That's an interesting story. Results. How do results happen? How do results happen? Let me see. Do results just happen? Oh, look. My cycles went down. What the hell happened? Wow! My cycles went up! What happened? You happened. You said, it's not me. Oh, yes, it is. Attitude is not great. It filters down from the top. And you are the top of your organization. So don't blame your upline. Understand this. Anything the upline does is a bonus. You are in charge. Now, results always tell an interesting story. You know what they do? They tell you the truth. It's interesting, isn't it? I'm not going to give you a brain burning with any of this stuff. I mean, this is pretty simple stuff. But we don't think of it. It tells us the truth. It's about the mind. It's all about the mind. It's about your marvelous mind. Now, most people know very little about the mind. And what we want to do is look at the mind in a paradox. But we want to be more specific. Let's look at your mind and your paradigm. So what I'm going to ask you to do, as difficult as it is from time to time, I want you to just think of you. I want you to think of your thoughts, your feelings, your results. How are you working with your people? Not what are your people doing. How are you working with them? If they're in a bad mood, you treat them one way, and if they're in a good mood, you treat them another way. Or do you treat them regardless of what mood they're in? If they're upset with you, it's really something you're upset themselves about. So rather than react, respond. Just say, I wonder what's bothering them. See, really focus on yourself. Now, Dr. Truman Sleep back in 1934 was very involved in the healing arts and in holistic health. And he said, nobody's ever seen the mind. Nobody's ever seen the mind. And that's why mental health people have so much trouble. If I tell you to change your mind, where do you go? Where do you find it? You know? You're looking for it. Where do you find the mind? How does it function? See, the average person would think, well, you should leave the mind to the behavioral scientist or psychologist or psychiatrist. You know what I found? You can teach little tiny kids how the mind works. Little tiny kids, if you teach them languages, you can teach them how the mind works. And that's really what we want to do. And this doctor said what we need is an image of the mind, and so we drew this picture. Or he said, let that represent the mind. Big circle. We'll divide it into two parts. And that's the conscious mind. So that's the subconscious, and this is the body. Can you see that with this lecture in here? You can see it okay? All right. Now, I've said on many occasions, this is the most valuable idea I have ever learned. I've been studying this personal growth stuff, and I have earned a lot of money and done a lot of different things that were pretty good. But I had no idea what I was doing and how I did it. And you know what I found? Most people that are highly successful cannot articulate on why they are. Big companies, multinationals, they don't know why their stars are stars. They really don't know why. And so they can't can it and give it to everybody. If they knew why they were, they would be able to duplicate it. They could do something with it and give it to everybody. But they don't know why they are. That shocked me when I first started to really understand that. Well, I heard about a guy in Vancouver, British Columbia. I was living in Chicago. And somebody said, you should go and listen to this guy talk. I think he's got information you're looking for. So I don't know. This great big guy got up on stage. And the second he opened his mouth, I knew that he knew what he was talking about. So I made up my mind I was going to get to know him. After the program was over, I went up and asked him if I could spend a couple hours with him. And I remember looking at his watch and he says, I'm sorry, I got to catch a plane. I said, I got to catch a plane too. I don't mean right now. He said, where are you going? I said, I'm going home. He said, where do you live? I said, Chicago. We were in Vancouver, British Columbia. He said, what are you doing out here? I said, I come out to hear you speak. I think he was impressed that I had traveled so far to hear him. I said, I would have walked here if I had known what I was going to get. And so he said, I'm not going to be in Chicago anytime in the near future. I'm going to be in Toronto in a couple of weeks. I said, I'm from Toronto. I said, I'll fly over. It's only an hour away. And the two of us met in the Skyline Hotel for what was supposed to be a 2 to 3 hour meeting. We were there for 3 days. He taught me more in those 3 days than I had learned in 10 years. And that's where he started with that drawing. He said, you're a triune being. You live simultaneously on 3 planes of understanding. I said, I know that. He said, you don't know that. Why don't you just shut up and listen to me? He said that for a fact. Then he smiled. But he said, you got to take a look at this. So he said, there's the mind, the conscious, the subconscious, the body. Now, I look at my head as being my mind. Your mind is actually in your fingernail. It's in your toes, in your elbow. Mind is movement. Body is the manifestation of the movement. So I look at my head as being my mind. And everything from the neck down is being the body. Now the mind is what controls the body. The body is the instrument of the mind. The conscious mind can think. The thinking part of you is in the conscious mind. The conscious mind has the ability to gather information. That's what we call the educated mind. That's where school piles the information up. They pile the books in there. Right? Now, this is also where our intellect is resonant. And it's the intellectual factors that we have that separate us from all the rest of the animal kingdom. Now, we don't learn this in school, and I don't know why. Well, I do know why. The teachers don't know it. But if they did, then we would be so far ahead of them. But they don't. Now, the conscious mind operates a lot different than the subconscious. The subconscious is your emotional mind. Now, look here, we're going to switch this around a bit. The conscious mind has the ability to choose. You can choose anything you want. And understand this, the results that you're getting, whether you believe this or not, is irrelevant. Your results are the result of your past choices. That's exactly what it is. You say, well, hell no, you've got to understand. No, I do understand. I've spent 54 years understanding this. And unequivocally, the results I'm getting have nothing to do with anybody else. It has to do with me. My wins, my losses, I created them all. This is so important to understand this. Now, when you hear things, you have the ability to accept or reject it. You have the ability to accept or reject it. Now, let's suppose you hear news and it's about a bad economy and you reject it. What can you do? Well, then you can originate. You're an originating human being. You've got the ability to think. And you can originate. You can think anything you want. If you let what the masses think in being and control your thinking, you're going to move very slow. Very slow. And you probably won't go very far. The masses don't go very far, and they move very slow. If you really want to win, talk to the people who are really making it happen. Talk to the people that have made it happen. Listen to what I tell my wife. Ask. Ask. She says, how do I earn 100,000? You help 6 people earn 2,000 a month. She says, how can I earn $1 million? Help 6 people earn 100,000 a year. Well, that's pretty basic. You focus on that, that'll work. That'll work in any network marketing company. I don't care what company it is. I just happen to think this is a good one. A real good one. I've known BK since he was a very young guy. I knew BK's parents, Dottie and Ben. I knew them many years ago. I knew Tom and Bethany 35 years ago. I mean, I've been around these people for a long time. You've got some phenomenal people that run this show. Well, you have the original. Now look, that all happens up here. This part here, it must accept what you give it. It cannot reject what you give it. Do you know what that means? It's immoral. It's like the earth. It does not care what you plant. And on Earl Nightingale's Stranger's Secret record, he said you can plant nightshade, a deadly poison, and not a 16th of an inch away, you plant corn, sweet food. One will grow with just as great an abundance as the other. They're planted side by side in the same earth. Deadly poison, sweet food. Both of them. Well, you can plant a bad idea or a good idea in there. One will grow with just the same abundance as the other. And get this. Your subconscious mind cannot differentiate between what you've imagined and what's real. This is so important. Now think. I don't care where you want to go. Imagine yourself already there. Walk like you're there. Talk like you're there. Work like you're already there. Doesn't matter where you want to go. Your imagination can bring the future into the present. The imagination is the most marvelous tool you've got. Yet we're using it the wrong way. Let's see ourselves where we want to be. Subconscious will accept it. You give it to it. Hold your hand like that for a minute. Everybody hold their hand up like that. Put your hand like this. Put it on your chin for a minute. Will you do that? Put it on your chin. Where's your chin? And so if you went to your chin, you were thinking. But if you weren't thinking, you went there. Now you can say, well, that's where you went. If I walked off a cliff, would you follow me?
He doing what Will Smith does on Focus, yeah. That's what he just played here. You ever watch Focus? Yeah, that's what he just played
now,
out.
with this information in mind, let's change this. Let's say this is you today. Now, you are being inundated with information from radio, from other people, from TV, from newspapers. It's floating into your consciousness, and in your consciousness you have what's called a reasoning factor, and it's the reasoning factor that gives you the ability to think. So all this information that's coming at us, we can think, we can accept it or reject it. Now, since about 95 to 97% of the population are going in the wrong direction, they struggle all the way through their life from the cradle to the casket. They never really make it happen. The odds are about 95 or 95 to 5 that we're going to get bad information. So we've got to have our guard up. And we've got to be rejecting most of this stuff we hear. But we haven't got our guard up. This is how we live. You see? We don't tell that to go away. We not only don't tell it to go away, we leave our mind wide open, and in it goes. And this part has no ability to reject. See, if we're not thinking, that part is set aside. And so you're totally subjective. Why would we do that? We're programmed as part of our paradigm. Part of our paradigm is not to think. Well, they're all going that way, we better go that way. Now, why would we live like that? Well, let's close the curtain on that for a moment. Let's look here. Who's got a new baby? Anybody here a new baby? Nobody? What are you doing?
Trying to make money to have support my kid.
This is the way you arrive on the scene. That's how a baby arrives. Their subconscious mind is wide open. And whatever's going on around goes right into that baby's mind. Over and over and over. That's how they learn their language. That's how they learn to like the food. It's just programmed right into the mind. In fact, this is where your self-image is built. You know, you see people with low self-esteem or poor self-image. You can pick it off by the way they walk, by the way they talk, by the way they dress, by the way they meet people. They have low self-esteem. Why? They don't think much of themselves. Well, that was built in their little life. The kind of food you eat, everything. Self-image is just one idea. Paradigm is a multitude of ideas. Now, I don't have the time to dig into this the way I'd like to, but understand this. We're doing the same thing now as we did when we were little tiny babies. We're just letting what's going on around control us. It's in there, it's programmed in there. Okay? Now, here we are, we go to school. School gave us valuable knowledge. However, school never taught us how to alter the old paradigms. And understand this. You frequently don't do what you already know how to do. So we have superior knowledge, inferior results, that causes confusion and frustration. Now let's look at our schematic here again. There's the person there. There's where all the knowledge is. That's what school wanted. School loaded your head up with knowledge. But for some strange reason, the results don't match the knowledge. A person's got all these degrees, they get all this knowledge, but the results aren't there. Why? Well, results don't come from our conscious, they come from the paradigm. The paradigm controls the behavior, controls the vibration. So therefore it controls what we attract. Now, if you want to change your results, if you want to change what's been going on in your life, because there's patterns in every person here. There's patterns, the same thing, every 4-week cycle, it's much the same. You may have a breakout, whoa, where you go, and then you level out again. What happened? Why not, whoa, all the way to the top? Because you can't do that. You've got to go against the paradigm. You've got to build a new paradigm. And when you say, I'm going to change my results, if you don't change the paradigm, the results don't change. You've got to build yourself a new paradigm. How do you build a new paradigm? Well, how was the old one built? It was built through repetition. Before you can be sure of your ability, we talked about that, mentors, coaches. Get direction from people that have demonstrated my results. Quit talking to the ones you're hanging out with all the time. They don't know any more than you. You don't know any more than them. Why do we do that? It's a habit. You have infinite potential. No question about it. Now what you have to do is make a decision. You couldn't be in a better place to make one. You're in the right energy here. You make a decision of what you're going to do, how you're going to change. What do we say? In absence of clearly defined goals, we become strangely loyal to performing daily trivia until ultimately we become enslaved by it. Let's say that's not going to happen anymore. Here's what you want to look at. Goals cause you to grow. James Allen wrote this, and it's beautiful. He said, mind is the master power that molds and makes. And man is mind. And evermore he takes the tool of thought and shaping what he wills, brings forth 1,000 joys or 1,000 ills. We think in secret, and it comes to pass. Environment is but our looking glass. How do we set goals? Well, there's a way to look at it. There's the ABC of goal setting. We all are in the ABCs in school. There's a difference. Most people set goals, A-level goals. Now, why? Well, it's in harmony with our society, with the people we mix with. Now, I want you to think of this. There's a certain group of people you're mixing with. You feel comfortable with them, they feel comfortable with you. They bitch about you from time to time, you bitch about them from time to time. But you hang out together. You've all in about the same social economic state. And you set the same kind of goals. You set goals to do what you know you can do. I know I can do this. I know that if I really apply myself, I could get to the next pin level. How about 6 pin levels up? How about really turning it on? Well, I don't know that. You don't have to know how to do it. You only have to know you're going to do it. But at any rate, we do what we know how to do. That's no good. That's on past results. Well, if we're going to graduate, we move ahead and we move up here. We say, if she did this, and if he did that, and if she gets those people to come into the business, like she said, if they frenzy and we get all these parts going, then I think I can do this. See, we're obsessed with the how it's going to happen. Hillary didn't know how to get to the top of the mountain. The Wright brothers didn't know how to get the plane off the ground. Edison didn't know how to illuminate the world until after they did it. You've got to do it first. Then you look back. You don't connect the dots going ahead. You can only connect them going back. That's the part we've got to learn. You won't know how you're going to do it until after you get there. And even after you get there, you won't know exactly how you did it. There was serendipitous little things happening that you didn't even notice, that you attracted. We got to go up here. And how do we get up there? You've got to fantasize. That's what you want. So you build the fantasy of what you want. The kind of house you really want. The business you really want. What do you really want? Wants come from the essence of who we are. We're spiritual beings. Our spiritual DNA is perfect. There's perfection within us. And it keeps jabbing us to consciousness. Want this, want this, want this. Yet, because we don't know how, we reject it. But it probably started when we were little kids. Mommy, Daddy, I want. You always want something. Where are you going to? How are you going to get that? Do you think money grew on trees? And so you see, we were shot down before we even got off the ground. Well, that's part of the programming. If we don't know how, we automatically think we can't do it. You don't have to know how. You only have to know that you're going to do it. But we throw that out. And where do we go? Well, we start here. And then we hear somebody, Maggie gets up and winds your stem a little bit. You think, maybe I can go there. Now, when you go there, you don't get support from these people. These are your friends. If you go and ask them, would you like her to win? They'd all say, yeah, we want her to win. You want her to leave? No, we don't want her to leave. So they won't support you. They don't want you to leave. You're leaving this little social circle. You're leaving them. People don't resist change. People resist being changed. And your absence forces change on them. They've got to adapt to your absence. They don't want to. So they're not going to support you. They want you to win, but they won't support you. So you don't get any support, and understand this, going after what you think you can do, there's no inspiration in it. It's not going to inspire you. So finally you get fed up and you come back here. Then you go to another meeting and somebody says something, you go back there. And you try and it just doesn't work, so you come back here. You think, oh, what the hell, and you quit, and that's where you stay. But some of you are there now. And you don't want to be there. And some of you brought people in and they're gone. You think, God, I worked so hard. Get over it. They're gone. Forget it. Where are you going to go? You see, there's the 3 stages of creation in your life: fantasy, theory, fact. The way this room was illuminated was nothing but a fantasy at one time. In fact, this building was nothing but a fantasy at one time. The automobile you're driving was nothing but a fantasy at one time. Most of the clothes you have on was a fantasy at one time. Most of them are made out of synthetic fibers. They were fantasy at one time. Think, where does it come from? It comes from the imagination. You've got to build yourself a fantasy. Build the fantasy. See yourself there. Walk like you're there. Think like you're there. Live there. This is hardball. You've got to play hardball with yourself. Quit letting yourself off the hook. Fantasy is how everything's happening. Then you've got to turn the fantasy into a theory. But before you can turn the theory into a goal, you've got to pass a test. See, you build a fantasy with your imagination. You build a theory with your reasoning factor. That's when you start to think serious. This isn't just a fantasy anymore. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to surprise everybody around the house. All my friends are going to be shocked when they see what I pull off. I am going to make it happen. Make up your mind you're going to do it. No more fooling around. Now the test you have to pass before you can turn that into a goal is, am I able? Well, all science and all theology clearly indicate no one can guess at what you're capable of doing. Your potential is infinite. Then they have to ask, am I willing? Are you willing to pay the price? Are you willing to take it right on the chin? Are you willing to lose the person that you worked so hard to get? You have no control over other people. You only have control over you. You cannot let what happens to anybody else control you. You make up your mind you're going to do it. And when you do that, that becomes the goal. And you impress that upon your subconscious. And when you do that, that's the subconscious mind that operates by law. And one of the first laws is the perpetual transmutation of energy. That idea begins to move into physical form. And then it turns to a fact. From fantasy to theory to fact. Then you're in the position to build bigger and better fantasies. Now that is called a creative process. That's how everything happens. I don't care who it is. And if you're going to rule that, fall in love with this. First, you've got to see it in your mind. And then you believe. You don't know how it's going to happen, but you believe. You do have all this power. Now I'm going to learn how to direct it. And then you step out and you do it. Just go do it. Now look, here's a guy here who's climbing the vertical wall of ice. Why the hell anybody want to do that beyond me, but he's doing it. Let's say it's 100 feet high. How does he get up that wall? He knows where he's going, he knows he's going to get there. Look, he's got the cleats, he's got all the equipment, and he's going up a vertical wall of ice. And when he's standing on the ground, he sees the top. He knows he's going to the top. He does not know how he's going to get there. You do not have to know how you're going to become elite. You do not have to know how you're going to the top of this organization. You only have to know you're going to the top. And once you make that decision, then you take a walk. And you reach up and bang! Bang! Boom! Boom! Now you're not on the ground anymore. You are suspended on the side of a vertical wall of ice. You have taken the first step. Then what do? You adapt to the change that's taken place in your conditions, your circumstance, and your environment. Then and only then will you see the next step. You start looking and bang! Bang! Boom! Boom! One step after another. Every time you take a step ahead, you adapt to the changes that's taken place. Then and only then will you see the next step of action that's necessary. Now, do you think there's any possibility when that guy's halfway up, he says, ah, hell, this isn't working? That's how we got to the moon. When Werner von Braun was asked by John Kennedy, what would it take to build a rocket that would carry a man to the moon and bring him back safely to Earth? Here was his answer. Just 5 simple words. The will to do it. That's all you require. The will to do it. The will is like perception, imagination, memory, intuition. The will is a mental faculty. It's that mental faculty that gives you the ability to focus on one thing to the exclusion of all the outside distractions. Now look at it. You can see, hear, smell, taste, touch. They're like sensory factors. We have been programmed to live with them. What we've got to understand is that the conscious mind is also the intellectual mind. And you have these higher faculties. You have perception, the will, imagination, memory, intuition, and reason. And it's through the use of these that we are ability to change our intellect. But through the use of the intellect that we can change the paradigm. And we start living the way we really want to live. Now watch here for a moment. You have a choice. There's a power that's flowing into your consciousness. You can stay in ignorance, or you could operate with knowledge. When that power flows in, you have the ability to think. Now those two symbols are the law of opposites. There's a right and a left side to my body. There's a front and a back, a top and a bottom. There'd be no inside in this room without an outside to the room. Everything has an opposite. I don't care what you're looking at. If it's bad, it's good. And it's not only opposite, it's equal and opposite. If it's a long ways down to the floor from this platform, it has to be a long way up from the floor to the top of the platform. You'll never find something that's all bad. You'll never find something that's all good. Some of you have been taught you're all bad. Nobody's all bad. I started to operate with that in the maximum security prison when I would go in there. Some of them really believed they were all bad. I said, you're not all bad. If you're very bad, you're very good. If you're just a little bad, you're a little good. If something only gives you a bit of a problem, there's only a bit of a win in it. If it's a real big problem, there's a big win. Wise people go out and look for big problems because they know when they solve them, you're going to be big winners. Now you have the ability to choose anything you want. We have a tendency to let what's going on outside control what's going on in the inside. Let's suppose you need a certain amount of money by the end of the month and you're not sure where it's going to come from. What's the most natural thing to do? To take that power and turn it into a negative thought. Now you have the ability to choose anything you want. Why would we do that? It's habit. It's part of the paradigm. Now when you choose that thought, you instantly impress it upon the subjective mind. That's the emotional mind, and it turns into fear. Now that fear has to be expressed, and it expresses it through the only instrument it can, the physical body. And it sets up what we call anxiety. You see that? It goes from worry, fear, to anxiety. The anxiety is not expressed, the anxiety is suppressed. It's suppressed. And the suppression turns to depression. And the depression turns to disease, and the disease turns to disintegration. St. Clair Lewis was right. He said, we don't die, we kill ourselves. Now, do you know this happens at warp speed? You can go from just nothing to fear to anxiety just at warp speed. And that's where all this comes from. Now, you see, faith and understanding is the key to freedom. It really is. What we want to know is that we don't have to worry. You may not see where the money's coming from, but if you built the image of the money, it's going to come. You've got to understand the laws and understand how things work. Now, there's only one way to develop understanding, and that's through study. There isn't any other way to get it. Now, there's many forms of study, but you've got to study. The understanding develops faith. Faith manifests as well-being. The well-being doesn't get suppressed, the well-being is expressed. The expression accelerates. You pick up speed. We call that momentum when your company starts going in that direction. And that's because your abbeys, the chakras are open, the energy is flowing freely through you. There's no kinks in the hose. Energy flows to and through. Creation. And you've got a choice. You can go that way or that way. Some people almost live over there. Some people go over there, but they don't stay there. They come back here. I used to go there and stay there for long periods of time. I very rarely go there now, and when I do, I only stay there for a matter of minutes, and I'm right back there. What's the difference? I've gained an understanding. Now, let's take a look at this. Here is an acorn. The acorn is planted in the earth. What we want to understand is that the acorn is made from the same stuff you're made from. It's energy. And when you plant the energy in the earth, the acorn's moving. There's a nucleus or a pattern plant in the acorn that controls the vibratory rate of that energy we call an acorn. There's energy jammed, which is earth, jammed right up against the acorn, but it's not on the same frequency. Everything operates on frequencies. And there's an infinite number of frequencies. This energy is in harmony, so it marches right towards the acorn. And when it becomes one with the acorn, shoots start to come up the bottom. It comes out the top, and it starts to attract from the atmosphere as well as from the earth all the energy that's necessary to build the oak tree. See, the oak tree was already here. Aristotle used to hold an acorn up and say, what is this? He wanted everybody to say an oak tree. Aristotle was wrong. There's no oak tree in an acorn. There's a pattern plan. There's the potential of greatness in you. It's the pattern plan or the nucleus that controls the vibration of the acorn. And that'll control what the acorn attracts to us. A pattern plan in the seed controls the vibration of the seed. The energy creating the oak tree was always here. It's in harmony with and was attracted to the seed. The acorn's in the earth. The energy to the oak tree is in the universe. The law of attraction brings them together. Now, what's the difference between you and the acorn? I'll tell you, the only difference. You have the conscious ability to alter your vibration. You can dictate what the pattern plan is that's going to control the vibration you're in. You can control what you're going to attract to you. You can attract stuff that's going to cause you to go down, or you can attract stuff that's going to cause you to go up. But understand this, it's all energy, everything's energy. This is not philosophy, as Einstein said, this is physics. And when you move into the right vibration, you're going to attract what you have to attract. Now look here for a moment. Let the white line here represent the sound of a CD playing. Let the red line represent you listening to the sound of a CD playing or a recording. You're listening, and all of a sudden an idea hits, and away you go on a thought trip. That's a thought frequency. It's not the same frequency you're listening on. And so you're up here, and you're thinking about this. You're not listening anymore. You think with your conscious mind. You listen with your emotions. So while this is going on, still talking, you're up here on the thought trip. Then you come back down, and you start listening again. And then another idea hits, and off you go on another thought trip. Now this explains why you've got to keep listening to the same thing over and over and over. It took me years to understand. I was doing it because I was hooked on listening to it. I didn't understand what I was doing to myself. Reading that book, I've been reading it every day for 54 years. Somebody asked me in the back, what do I read in it? I don't know, wherever the book opens up. I said, it isn't what you read, it isn't how much you read, it's understanding and applying what you read is the secret. Just understand, if you're going to read, write your goal down, and then start reading. What you're looking for is an idea that's moving you towards the goal. Now look, here you are as a baby. How often do you think they had to tell you your name before you started responding? How often? Probably a couple of hundred times. Well, that idea there only hits you once. You've got to get it over and over and over again. Now look. There's your conscious mind. That's where your intellect is resident. That's where your wants are. There's your subconscious. Okay? That's where your paradigm is. There's the body. The law of attraction is at work. The law of attraction responds to the paradigm, not what you want. Person can say, well, I want this, but it doesn't happen. That's because you're not emotionally involved. You've got to see yourself already there. It's got to happen now in your mind. It's got to happen now in your emotional mind. It's not down the road, it's with you. It's only down the road that it manifests. When a woman gets pregnant, do you think he comes home a week later and say, where is it? Now, 280 days later, he may say, where is it? The gestation period is 280 days. You plant a seed for a carrot, so it's 7 days. No one knows what the gestation period is for an idea. But we do know that the paradigm controls it. What you've got to do is turn your want into a new paradigm. Find it in your subjective mind. Now look at here. We're bringing this in for a landing. The X represents your paradigm. The X represents the way you're conditioned. X is the unknown factor. X worked for me, it'll work for every person beside you. It's the unknown factor, the algebraic equation for the unknown. Well, that X controls the vibration you're in. The subconscious or the paradigm controls the vibration we're in. Does it have to? No, we can change that, but it does. The vibration controls our behavior, so we produce X-type results. What kind of thoughts is the person going to think? They're going to think X thoughts. Why? Because the X thoughts are in harmony with the conditioning. And we like to think thoughts that are comfortable. We're comfortable thinking that. Now that's why people keep getting the same results and keep thinking the same thoughts. Now let's progress ahead. This is a process. We're going to say that's bondage, this is reason. So here we've got a Y idea. Now what's the Y idea? Well, if you just started, the Y idea may be presidential. The Y idea may be that new apartment you're going to get. The Y idea may be that new automobile you're going to get. The Y idea is anything that is not in harmony with the conditioning. This conditioning will not give you that kind of a lifestyle. It just won't. But as long as the idea is just in consciousness, hell, you can talk about it, you can think about it, and everything's fine. It's when you impress it upon your subconscious that all hell breaks loose. Now understand this, you're dealing with an electrical system. The central nervous system is the most complex electrical system in the universe. So let's look here. When you impress the Y upon X, all hell breaks loose. You impressed it, what happens? Bang, the terror barrier comes up. You hit that worry, fear, and anxiety. Remember we talked about that? What? Just like that. And we go right back. Well, I may not earn a lot, but at least I know what I'm going to get. I know a lot of people that join this network might have done it. Just people at the top of their money. What they don't understand is that they're at the top. You just built nothing underneath. Okay? Now think. This does not have to be the story of our life. You do not have to back away from that terror barrier. Faith based on understanding is the key to freedom. Now, I just love this concept. When you impress that, remember what this man said. Joseph Campbell said, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. Now look, you know that terror barrier is there. You know as you start to get emotionally involved with this goal, it's going to scare the hell out of you. You know that your friends and relatives are not going to agree with you. You know that they're going to look at you like you're a little mental. You joined a what? Have you out of your mind? You know all that. You've got to say, I'm going right through that sucker, and I'm going to do it right now. And you just crash right through it. Because you see, over here is freedom. This is living the way you want to live. Now, did you get rid of the fear? Oh, no. You go through the terror barrier. The fear is caused by the Y mixing with the X. But if you keep mixing the Y with the X, and you keep mixing it, you keep impressing the new idea, you're going to find one day the X is all gone. And you're living in a brand new world. And you're very comfortable with the big ideas. It's a nice way to live, isn't it? You made the move. I can see you sitting there shaking your head and you think, Jesus, I can relate to that. Okay. That's the beautiful truth. But you know something? The people that do that are about 3 out of 100. But those 3, they sure live a good life. What Minister Fuller said, you never change things by fighting existing reality. You change things, you build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. Now, will coming here do that? No. But it might get you in a position where you say, I'm going to do that. See, I don't think you were looking for something to do today, so you came here. I think you can because there's something here that you think maybe will help you get what you want. But without making the hard decisions, you're never going to get what you want. You've got to make up you're not only going to go there, you're going to stay there. Now, here we say effective coaching makes changing paradigms easy. A paradigm is actually a mental program that literally controls your habitual behavior. Almost all behavior is habitual. Therefore, changing paradigms comes down to changing your habitual way of thinking about a particular subject. You have very likely already learned how difficult changing a habit can be. It necessarily follows that you must be wisely guided to break a series of habits. Ergo, coaching speeds up and improves results. Now, there's so many good examples in this company. There's a number of good examples here. I've known Brad for quite a long time. That's a great example. Take both Christians, they're working together. They want you to win. They're good examples. There's other good examples in your room. Watch them. Follow them. Ask for help. But understand this. You don't get ready to get set to get going. You get going. Think Don Shula put it best. He says it's the start that stops most people. He's right. It's the start that stops most people. Make up your mind that you're going to make a presentation every day, at least once. But every day, you're going to make a presentation. And every day, you attempt to make a better presentation than you made yesterday. You've got to give the best you've got. I've given you the best I got today. Now, you might have got a better presentation yesterday. You might get a better one tomorrow. But you can't get any better than you got today. You've got to get the habit of giving the very best you've got regardless. No excuses. If you do that, just at least one a day, you'll be amazed how successful you'll become in this business. And understand this. People don't believe something until they discover it for themselves. You've got to gently lead your team, gently lead the people to the understanding of what this will do for them. It's such a beautiful concept. I'm going to leave you with something that I got a lot out of many years ago. I made a commitment to myself that I would read the chapter on persistence every day for at least 30 days, once a year. Napoleon Hill said there may be no heroic connotation to the word persistence, but he said the quality is to the character of the human, like what carbon is to steel. You want to make a commitment and pick a reliability, a person that's very reliable, that you can be accountable to. You see, let's commit to do this at least one a day presentation. Let's give it everything we've got. And then study this concept of persistence. Now look at this for a moment. Bill said there are 4 steps which lead to the habit of persistence. They call them no amount of intelligence, no particular amount of education, and but little time and effort. The necessary steps are, number 1, a definite purpose backed by a burning desire for its fulfillment. Number 2, a definite plan expressed in continuous action. Continuity is the key. Number 3, a mind closed tightly against all negative and discouraging influences, including negative suggestions of relatives and friends. And number 4, a friendly alliance with one or more persons who will encourage one to follow through with both plan and purpose. You get locked into that and make up your mind that you're going to make the time you spend here today one of the best investments you've ever made. Take a person that you're going to be accountable to and get them to be accountable to you and use them. And then say, let's really make this thing dance. Now you just started a brand new 4 weeks, I think, aren't you? Yeah, just started. Well, this is the last complete 4 weeks, I think, before the conference. I think the next one's about the third week in, something like that. So make up your mind you're going to really set a mark for yourself. And if you haven't already registered for the conference, get online and register. Don't say, well, I'm not sure if I'm going to go. Be sure. Get over there. The big events always cause people's production to go up. They come back from it. It's historic. It works for every company. It always has and it always will. I want to thank everybody that was involved in this meeting for inviting me here. I've obviously enjoyed myself. I hope you have. And I really wish that you get as much as I got out of and the guy introduced me to this. Because my whole life changed. And your whole life changed. You're with the right company. You're in the right place. The right time. Make up your mind when you go race. Thank you. She is so good. Why don't you do this?
Maggie the Pippo is going to buy a studio apartment so she can live by herself, and we're going to have to discuss what you want to do from a numerical standpoint. But can we get a commitment to that night? Everyone hear that? Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, obviously, you know, that was incredible. And I don't know about you, but life-changing information. You know, this event has been great on many levels, not only yesterday, but today, obviously, with Bob Poctor. And what I encourage everybody to do is not only take the information that we learned today and, you know, the stuff that made your brain spin around a little bit. I know I had about 5 of those moments today. But remember what made it do that. Remember why that happened. Remember that it happened for a reason. And when you leave the room, make the adjustment, make the shift in your life so that things that you want to become a reality become a reality. And I want everyone real quick, take out their cell phone. Go on their Instagram account. And follow Proctor Gallagher.
It's like almost everybody here did it.
We prepared. This information
Just looking at his Instagram.
is, as you see, incredibly valuable. I'm leaving with Bob after this. I just did a 6-day event last week in Toronto. I'm going for another 3-day event. I got my sister registered for it. And there's an abundance of this information. Just seek it. Right? ProctorGallagher.com. There's tons of programs. I watch Bob every single morning for 6 minutes. Right? And you get a little dosage of these positive concepts, these, you know, realities that you need to understand to move forward. So it's all available for you. So go on his website, right? Obviously, he did a very, very big favor for us. So one more time, can we get a hand of applause? Thank you all for coming out. Once again, take the information, make the adjustment, make the shift, and I will see you all at the top. Get ready for more of these events.
YPR!